The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Patrick Walker, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Monday, October 9th, 2023, season 19, episode number 48. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We're live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. And this is going to be one of those days when we got to try to make sense of what we all watched last night. Cowboys go to San Francisco and take one. Like, they really got destroyed last night. And then San Francisco left no doubt as to who is the better team. At least at this point, they win 42-10. And now we get to figure out, like, what does this mean for this Cowboys team going forward? What, if anything, do we learn about this team last night in that debacle? And I'll start first with the big picture look at that. I want to go around the table and tell me what your big picture storyline is coming out of that game for this Cowboys season. Let's start with you, Patrick.
Well, first and foremost, Cowboys got their asses kicked. 3 out of the first 4 games, they were the ones bullying. But yesterday in Santa Clara, they absolutely got their ass kicked in every phase of the game. They got out bullied. They got out muscled. They got out physical. They got out coached. They got out executed. Pick an adjective and put it after the word out, and that's what happened yesterday. Biggest takeaway for me is that they're not ready. They're not ready yet. And when the question is posed, is this Cowboys team in 2023 ready to take the next step and be that contender that gets to the NFC Championship and then to the Super Bowl? This was the measuring stick. We can enjoy, and we did. We enjoyed the 70-10 deficit through week 2. We enjoyed them bouncing back after the loss to the Jets and handing Bill Belichick the worst loss of his NFL career. But then what do? You go out to Santa Clara, and Mike McCarthy suffers the worst point differential loss in his NFL career, 42-10. And it's a game where you were outdone and you had self-inflicted wounds that made it that much worse. So through 5 weeks, still a lot of football to be played, but at a certain point, even that phrase gets stale because sooner or later, there will not be a lot of football left to be played. You have to turn it on sooner or later, and it needs to be sooner than later. And the crux of it all is you look at the time of possession, and it was just whoppingly in favor of the 49ers. And it's going to bring me back to a singular point, and I'll pass it off to BB, and I know Amber wants to talk about this too. Where the hell is this Texas Coast offense? Where's the explosiveness? Love what I saw with the scheming of Kevontae Turpin in the slot. You get him on single high coverage against Oliver, the nickelback, and you burn him. Okay, where is that in the aspect of using Cooks and CeeDee Lamb and some of these players? We're still waiting for the explosiveness, still waiting for this offense to come together. You're now 5 weeks in, and we still have no clue what you're capable of. Where is it? Where is it?
You feel good about me talking about this?
Go ahead. I'll go last.
You go last? Yeah, I think Patrick completely nailed everything that needed to be addressed on that. Where I was a little bit of loss, Dallas only created 7 pressures last night. And the pressures that they were able to get actually resulted in big plays for the 49ers. And that's usually the recipe for at least causing the 49ers some problems from what we observed in the previous 4 games was when you watch Brock Purdy, he'll throw off his back foot. He will, he'll take a sack. He'll throw it away. He will do something that doesn't result in a big play. Your pressure started off well. The tip balls that you were able to get, the sack that you got from Curse was a big play. And then after that, though, it was downhill. You gave up a play of 38, you gave up a play of 19, you gave up a play of 23, and you gave up a play of 8. So here you are, all these throws that Purdy's making as he's facing pressure ended up being huge plays for the 49ers. They're a well-coached team. They scheme very well. They find ways to get their players in position, but it's really not all about scheme. It's what Patrick's talking about. They physically beat you up, and they beat you up with we talked a lot about the right side of that offensive line for the 49ers. Tip of the cap, helmet stickers, game balls, whatever you want to give them. that crew held up pretty well on that right side. McKivitz and Buford did a great job over there. They had to double Mike a couple of times. They had a great plan for him. When you watched him, they even moved him over on the other side to try and get some work against Trent Williams. They were helping Trent Williams over there. So they had a plan for how to handle Micah in this football game. But, it's the huge plays on defense I think they were just backbreaking plays. And, a great job of the 49ers kind of understanding what your coverage was going to be, how to get the matchups that they were able to, whether the one time I thought it was brilliant. They take Juszczyk and put him in motion. He's next to Ayuk, but he's got Hooker over the top of him in coverage. Well, they run him in motion, which makes Hooker go across. And then all of a sudden it's one-on-one on the outside, and now the ball's going Ayuk for a big game. So what they do is they affect you with the movement, and then you're one-on-one, and then it's a big play. So tip of the cap to the 49ers for the way they played physically, the way that they schemed you. And but, yeah, your bread and butter is your ability to play defense and get pressure. And the times you got pressure, you gave up some huge chunk plays. And that was a big problem in that game.
I thought by the time you were done, I was going to be able to get my heart rate down. I'm pretty trying to contain myself.
Say it with your chest.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
okay, hold on. Let me get I'm just trying not to cry, not because of the game. I'm just very emotional right now with all the heartbreaking, scary stuff that's currently happening in the world right now. And then, okay, you gotta sit here and talk about this. And I apologize for my emotions right now, just a lot going on.
But failing? Don't apologize for failing.
Then we gotta sit here, talk about this game, and right now, specifically talking about football, I just feel like there's not a whole lot of hope or like things to look forward to. You start the season thinking you have all the right tools, and once again, and again, these tears are not because of football. So I'm not crying because of football, but you start the season having new hopes again, and thinking you got all the right weapons. And once again, by the amount of years I've been here, I'm like, every time I've learned my lesson, I'm like, I'm not gonna be fooled. I'm not gonna be fooled fall for it. But heading into the season, I really felt that they have all the right tools, the right coaching, the right players, the right talent. You were changing system offensively, and you think, okay, maybe that's gonna be improvement. Maybe Mike McCarthy learned from what Kellen Moore was doing, not doing, what was right, what was wrong, and decided to kind of change things around and operate a different way and implement that for it to be getting better. And it hasn't. The offense hasn't been clicking. Then all of a sudden you have the defense that you were holding on to all this season, and then all of a sudden it's starting to crumble. And a lot of injury related, sure, they've taken a hit there, but there were no signs of anything that was exciting or anything that you think, and you talk about all the pressure, that was not present there. So every facet of the game, there were so many things, so many different things that were lacking, and it's hard. And I get that there's a lot of football to play. It's a long season. But currently, this Monday, it just feels like, how are you going to fix this problem fast enough? How are you going to improve on defense when now you're starting to get injuries and crumble? How are you going to fix this offense that just cannot simply click? And we know they have playmakers, but things are just simply not working for them. So it's tough to see kind of the big picture. It's tough to see the areas where you felt like even last weekend against the Patriots, where you thought the offense was starting to kind of click and get moving. And then all of a sudden, all of that goes away against the team that keeps beating you. This is the third time in a row. So it's just like one of those things where you're like, okay, what do we currently have to look forward to right now? What's an area of like, you're like, okay, well, we have this. Yeah. Well, we have Micah Parsons. Well, he didn't show up last night. It's hard to find anything positive at this moment.
Yeah, but it's what you have to look at is that is a unique football team that you played last night. Mm-hmm. That is there's a reason why, and I think a lot of circles people would have them even before the Dallas game. Would have them as the best team in the National Football League. You could talk about Buffalo, and they went across to England and got beat by Jacksonville, so they're kind of back. Last week they beat the Dolphins, so they're up, and you're going to play some games along the way that are going to be some difficult matchups. We'll see how this Charger one plays out. The injuries are a tough part of this thing. Losing Diggs a few weeks ago, very difficult thing to have to deal with. But the thing that kind of I know about going and moving on, and you try and put it behind you, and you try and learn, is that team you played, I don't think I'm going to face another one like that. I really don't. We'll see what Philadelphia brings. Well, heck, we'll even see what the Chargers bring offensively and scheme-wise. But the way their personnel is, the way that they're coached, the way that they smothered you yesterday. And there's very few teams in the league that can really smother you. And they did a great job of that yesterday. So your hope is that are there things, McCarthy, the thing that bothers me the most, and maybe this is where I'm kind of sad like you in this way, is Mike McCarthy stands up in front of you guys last night in the media and says, I need to be better. I need to be better with the red zone stuff. I need to call the game. I need to do, and I'm like, okay, but I need you to be better now. I don't need you to every week tell me you need to be better. Right. Sir, you're the primary play caller. You're the one that decided because of your position that you can move on and take the play calling role and then bring in Brian Schottenheimer to help you and then make a bunch of changes offensively. One of the things we talked about at training camp was we were worried about with all the changes in the coaching staff. I know I was. And you're thinking, well, this offense really just isn't clicking like it needs to click. And, I don't recognize that quarterback out there. The quarterback I've seen play here has maybe I'm okay with living with the interceptions if I know he's going to attack and throw the ball 8 yards every time he throws the ball. But if he's throwing the ball short on 3rd and 5 and they're getting 3 yards, that's the thing that makes me pause and think, well, this needs to be fixed. And maybe it needs to be fixed in a way I don't know right now. But I know I'm not going to play a defense and an offense that's like that bunch until later on in the year, maybe.
Yeah. And that's what – and you circled it back around in a great way for me and to segue to the following. That's the problem I have with it.
Yeah.
It's that we believe they can handle the Philadelphia Eagles even if you split that series. We know they can handle the Giants. We know they can handle the Commanders. You can handle the majority of your division to the point where you could probably stack on some outside wins. And, I believe this team will get into the playoffs. I do believe they're going to get into the playoffs. It
might be tough, though.
Yeah.
Might be.
Absolutely agreed, especially if they keep playing up and down like this.
Exactly, yeah.
But once you get in the playoffs, let's say you do go on a heater. Right, you get hot at the right time. Guess who you're going to likely meet in the NFC
Championship? Absolutely. That's the problem.
The same team that beat you the last 3 times, but 2 out of those 3 times demoralized you, bullied you, humiliated you. That's what's concerning for me. There is now very clearly a red and gold wall between the Cowboys and any possible shot at a Super Bowl.
But here's the thing, and I agree with what you guys are saying, but I'm in a little bit in a situation where the best way I can describe it is if you've ever known anybody who's had to deal with infidelity in their marriage. I've known some people like that. And one of the things they always say is, it now makes me question everything. I start to think back, like, what did I do? What did I not see? Who is this person? I thought I knew. All those things kind of come up. And that's what's happening to me right now with the Cowboys. I'm looking at them now and I'm saying, I thought going into this game, they were something that this game has made me rethink if I think they're that, right? They have beaten some really, really bad teams. Let's be clear. The way the Giants are playing and the way New England's playing, they may be two of the worst. They may be picking 1 and 2 next year in the draft. Like, they are playing horribly. So we know the Cowboys beat up on some bad teams, right? They beat the Jets. Jets not a great team. They lost to Arizona in convincing fashion. It wasn't a close game.
Right.
And then they get it handed to them in San Francisco. And what I'm left with is this team just not only just not good enough to beat San Francisco, but are they really more of an average team or maybe a little bit above average that can really destroy bad teams that can't figure them out early? You get a lead on them and they can just destroy those teams. And when it comes to the average to better teams, they're going to be kind of 50-50. And the best teams in the league, maybe they can't compete in that way. Like, that's the part that now I'm left wrestling with because I don't have enough of a sample size to tell me what I thought I saw of this team going back to training camp is what actually exists.
Well, and then there was nothing in this game, like literally nothing, other than the 2 touchdowns or like CeeDee Lamb getting in the end zone, and then you got Kavonta Turpin. Getting in there as well. Other than that, there's like nothing else that was promising. You talk about a game that we've been talking about since they lost against them in the playoffs. This has been building up. Week 1, the media, every week, it gets brought up, 49ers, and then we get here, and you just thought, and I shouldn't say this because I'm not them, I'm not in there, I don't know how they feel, but you just thought you would see a lot more fight in the game, and there wasn't that.
Yeah, Dak last week, with Todd Archer's question was asked about pissed, and he was, and that was his attitude about it. And you're absolutely right. There was a lot talked about. There was even changes made to the roster, in getting preparation to try and find a way to beat San Francisco. So that's what makes it even more demoralizing if you're, a Cowboy, if you're, on that side of the building over there, that a lot was put into this game, and and I'm not going to say they weren't ready to play because I think they were ready to play. I just think the team they played, and I'm not sitting here patting myself, but I picked that team. I picked San Francisco to win when we all went around the room. I felt like the game was going to be a lot closer. Some of the things scheme-wise gave me pause that can the Cowboys really handle this? And obviously they can. They can't handle what San Francisco does defensively, and they surely can't handle, at least in this matchup, the previous 2, they played pretty well on defense. The defense wasn't the problem. Everybody was kind of hanging their hat on, well, wait a minute, Dan Quinn's got a handle on this Kyle Shanahan offense. But Kyle Shanahan said, no, not today, Dan, not today. And, so that's your problem right there. That what things we all thought were really not. And to your point, they haven't. Have they? You can only play who's on your schedule.
Right, absolutely.
You can only play so. But you lose to Arizona, and you're like, well, that was bad. After you see what Arizona's doing right now. But I don't think there's any shame to losing to San Francisco because of the type of team they are. But if this kind of spirals into continued bad play, and to Patrick's point, this Texas coast offense that we don't ever see any movement from it.
You got to score.
No question.
And your defense kept you in the first half of the game. And you exhausted your defense, and yet you're not able to score. Question. At some point, your defense can do it all for you.
And this is the conversation you have in June in the offseason where you say, week 7, don't be surprised if Brian Schottenheimer's calling plays. That's the conversation that you start in June. If you start to look at the season and you say, and we do it in the radio all the time, talk you have. Don't be surprised if Brian Schottenheimer's calling plays after the Chargers game. If that's the something has to be done differently. But also we talked about this. They changed their entire coaching staff. That was something that we were concerned about. It's not working the way it needs to work right now.
Yep.
That's a problem.
We're going to take our first break. We're going to come back, and we'll dive into a little more of the details of this game. We'll talk about the offense and the defense and where things really went wrong. All right, we'll be back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Cowboys fans, after that move, we've just coined the term Rowdy Replay. Let's roll back the tape.
Okay, there's our mascot Rowdy cheering on the boys. And now he's on his phone, on his Bank of America mobile banking app?
Staying on top of his finances with his virtual financial assistant, Erica.
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive. Cowboys fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/can't stop banking.
Erica is only available in the English language. You must download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Member FDIC.
Welcome back into Dear Doctor, the show where I answer life's questions with an ice-cold can of Dr. Pepper. Sheila, let's hear from our next caller, would you?
Dear Doctor, my friend supported me during a tough time, but what's the right gift that says, thanks for being a shoulder to cry on?
Okay, this one's easy. I say give her a delicious Dr. Pepper. Nothing says, thanks, girl, better than a one-of-a-kind soda. Yes, any Dr. Pepper flavor will do. Now, just a reminder that I don't need to be a real doctor to know that Dr. Pepper is the one you deserve.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit unitedagandturf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
Check out the latest and greatest addition to the tours at AT&T Stadium in the Star in Frisco. Meet Jerry Jones, an interactive experience. Get a peek behind the curtain and into the fascinating life of Jerry Jones. I'm sure it's interesting right now. With a focus on innovative fan experience in partnership with AT&T, this interactive technology gives tour goers the opportunity to ask Mr. Jones a variety of questions. For more information and to book your tour, visit DallasCowboys.com/tours.
Welcome back. We're in the second segment of the Break Live from SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. This segment is brought to you by Blockchain.com.
Ding.
All right, here we go. Let's talk about the offense. Yesterday, they had 197 total yards. That's it. 57 on the ground, 140 passing. 3 of their first 4 possessions were 3 and outs. One of the possessions, they had a fumble on first down, which, by the way, if you haven't had a chance to go back and look at that, as you talk about, Brian, the all-22.
Great block play, by the way.
Go see Fred Warner. And it wasn't necessarily when he knocked the ball out.
No.
You got to see what happened earlier in the play with Tyler Biadasz to tell you everything you need to know. Like, as we were about to go on there, I mentioned that my guy, Marcus Banger, that I made up on Friday, he showed up at this game.
I was like, we need
in the person
a
of Fred
banger.
Warner.
We need a
Pete Pork Butt.
Pork Butt. We needed what was Nick's. What was his name?
Oh gosh, it was
some
Bartholomew.
Bartholomew, yeah.
Right? but no, Fred Warner, he had an impact on that game and on that play particularly. But that was just one of those 6 first possessions. You're talking about 5 of them ending within 3 plays, one of them being a turnover. And then they do get a touchdown on one of them. So my question for you guys is, if you had to narrow it down, and I don't know that you can even do this, but if you had to narrow it down to the thing that you think was the biggest problem
on the offense,
what was the biggest problem on offense yesterday?
I think the fact when I watched that game, and I got up and watched it at 6 this morning again, and the thing that bothered me the most was I felt like that if they blocked the front, they could get the ball to these receivers down the field. And these receivers didn't get open to save their you-know-whats. It was tough. When you look at Ward and those guys, I mean, it was impressive. Lenore, those guys, they did a great job of running with these receivers. The safety play was really good for them. You mentioned the linebackers. There was times where Dak just really, it felt like he wanted to throw the ball a little bit more down the field, and they just couldn't do it. They just could not get. I think Michael Gallup it was a struggle for him to get off the jam. Lamb you could tell he was a little bit frustrated by what was going on. But, the one big play that he made was Dak climbing the pocket and then him coming back to the ball. And you kind of thought, okay, see, those is what I thought they were going to be capable of being able to do. But this receiving group, it was a rough day. And if you look at the offensive line, Tyler Smith was not very good in this football game. And I think that hurt them a little bit. Biotish was a struggle. Steele had a couple of moments, but there were some times. I just think if I had to point to one thing, it was really about the wide receivers' inability to shake loose in that secondary that had given up some plays.
I think and you hit both points. I think both points are tied together. The Cowboys' offensive line, first time they've played together since Moses split the Red Sea, and it kind of showed as far as lack of chemistry in some of those combo blocks and things like that. So they struggled, like Brian said. Terrence Steele, who has played exceptionally well, he struggled on a couple of reps, and Tyler Smith struggled on a couple of reps, and Biotish struggled on a couple of reps. And I mean, when you combine that with lack of separation from your receivers, you're in a really bad spot. I'm sitting here looking at these separation rates from yesterday, and Jake Ferguson, as a receiving target, was the only one who had a respectable average separation rate. He was 4.7. Other than that, CeeDee Lamb 2.6, Gallup 1.9. Even Turpin on his big play, he still averaged 2.4. I mean, they just were not getting away from these cornerbacks. And I think Jake Ferguson was the cool hand Luke of the group, so to speak. I mean, we saw Dak try to take that shot on the deep over the middle to Schoonmaker, and that didn't work out. But once he started getting Jake involved, here's one target for Jake, grab, another target for Jake, grab, another target for Jake, grab. But then it stopped. Like there were no more targets for Jake Ferguson after he went 3 for 3, and he was the only one who was delivering. So when you see lack of separation combined with your offensive line struggles, and you actually find a solution, the solution being Jake Ferguson, and then you get away from that, that's concerning. So that it's just a mosh pit of unwellness that we saw in Santa Clara yesterday.
It's sad when Pollard was like your best pass blocker in this game. I mean, he picked up a couple of times that gave him a shot to at least have a chance to make a play. But it was tough. I just felt like that the Cowboys out on the outside could win a little bit more than they were, because the metrics, the numbers, everything, even the tape showed you that the 49ers had some problems underneath with some of their coverages, but they challenged Dallas's receivers, and Dallas's receivers just weren't up to it yesterday.
Do you guys know what happened between CeeDee and Dak? I heard about it. I didn't watch it, where there was like some kind of...
It just looks like it was just frustration spilling over. Basically, we're talking about an offense that was struggling last night and could not get things going at all. And you mentioned it earlier, CeeDee Lamb, and we're talking about it, Lamb and the other receivers, they just couldn't get the separation. And then when they got the separation, where was the ball going? Was it going to them? Was it not going to them? You look at that deep play over the middle to Brandon Cooks. If I know Dak was under duress and he was escaping out of the pocket, and that's a very difficult throw. Level of difficulty on a scale of 1 to 10, 11. But we've also seen Dak make that throw. So if that ball gets out a little bit sooner,
or if he throws it more upfield,
and
Brandon had some separation.
Yeah, and credit to Fred Warner, because holy crap, what is this dude made of?
How is he covering him downfield? Like that's the.
But nonetheless, if the ball is placed where it needs to be placed, maybe a little bit higher field, Cooks at least has a shot, and we're talking about a completely different ball game because it steals momentum again in a big way. So it's frustration boiling over, and when you're CeeDee Lamb, and a couple weeks ago you hang almost 150 against the Jets, and then you kind of struggle a little bit against the Cardinals. You saw him frustrated against the Cardinals. They bounced back against the Patriots, and then here we go again. So I think it's the offense. The offensive frustration, because when you're Lamb and you're Dak and you're Cooks and you're Gallup and you're Ferguson, what this offense can be based off what we saw in training camp. And when we say we're going off of what we saw in training camp, this isn't a bad defense. This is one of the best defenses in the league. So these are the training camp practices. So if you can do it against that defense, then you should be able to do it against the 49ers defense. The fact that you can't is what's concerning, and that's what frustrates those guys.
When it comes to frustration, and that's natural, we all go through it, especially when you're competing in games and things are not going your way, you're going to get frustrated. But that carrying over, like at what point, and I'm not saying this is the case whatsoever, but we see it happen around the NFL. At what point does your team, your offense, let's say, that group of guys start kind of becoming disconnected and, let's say, not really believing what McCarthy is trying to sell and implement in them because it's simply not working with them. When you go from what you had with Kellen Moore and then being the number one offense in the league, and then now you're consistently having these struggles, and that's not me putting everything on McCarthy whatsoever, because
you're just wondering if the buy.
But his offense couldn't beat the 49ers either. If you look at, 2 games.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
But I think the biggest thing to me about with CD, I think CD is trying to fight for a contract. I think that's something that's weighing on him right now about his situation. The lack of some productivity. We mentioned about the Jet. He wants to every week. He's a super competitive guy, but he's also fighting to get a new deal. And I think that's something that, that weighs on a lot of these guys' mind. If I'm not having success, why do they, will they move on from me? Will they not pay me? Will they not, all those things. So I think there's a culmination of the offensive frustration, player frustration, because he's seeing like, I've got to perform in order to get my contract taken care of. That's difficult. That's tough to go through for a player.
But in a game, are you thinking that way though?
Well, I think he's thinking like, I want to do well. I want to show these. I want to help us win. But by helping us win, I feel like I'm going to get compensated for that. I think that's something that's a little bit of a, from hearing from talking to people, CD really liked Kellen Moore. He really liked Kellen Moore. He liked the offense. He liked that style of offense. And so it's a transition. It's a change for a lot of these guys. It's just not been real smooth right now. It just hasn't.
Going back to your question, Amber, I do think, and Dak talked about it last night, this is a critical time for this team, because after you suffer a loss like that, if you don't have the right kind of culture, it's easy to start seeing fractures.
Yeah.
You can start seeing fractures between the quarterback and the receivers. You can start seeing fractures between the defense and the offense. There are a number of different ways where you can start seeing the team start to fracture because people start pointing fingers, right? And that's where Dak was like, this is a moment when we have to rely on our culture, on our locker room, on the guys in that locker room, and stay tight, because not only do they have last night to look at, but now everybody around the country is looking at them saying, yeah, they ain't as good. Yeah, we knew they wasn't as good, right? And they've got to deal with that all the way through the season. No matter what happens, everybody's still going to point back to San Francisco, right? Yeah. And so to answer your point, yes, this is a moment when there definitely can be fractures, and you have to worry about how does this team respond to this, because if they don't stay tight, this thing can get off the rails really quickly.
Yeah.
You got 53 men in that locker room. It can get off the rails really quickly if they don't stay tight.
They have some incredible record though, and was it 9-1, 10-1?
Yeah,
after
10-1
a loss?
after this last one. Yeah,
after a loss. So if you're thinking of that, if you want to hang your hat on something, some hopium, then that's something that that's
we're back to hopium this year.
Yeah, we're back to hopium.
We bring it out every year.
If you want hopium, that's McCarthy will they find a way to rally. They find a way to, but they're going to have to. They're going to have to play. They're going to have to play better. But I think a lot of it has to do with the problems they had yesterday. Was a lot on that team that they played.
Yeah,
that team that's no fun. I bet you if I go back, we go back and add up games after you play that team. How many times do you think the team's lost after they've played the 49ers? The Steelers used to be that way. You played the Steelers, the next week you were guaranteed to lose. They took that much out of you. This team out there, they tackle, they're physical, they play with finesse when they have to, they scheme guys open. The quarterback is relentless in the way he reads and finds guys. All his touchdown passes were outside the pocket. All of them. Boop, just move around. Boop, find a guy here, find. But you just see that's a hard team to defend, and it's an even harder team when it comes to with that front the way they play. But their secondary really, I think, won that game for them yesterday by the way they covered, and we hadn't seen that. We'd seen their front play great. We haven't seen their secondary cover like that. I'm sure they're thinking the same thing right now watching that tape.
We're going to take our final break. When we come back, I did want to ask you, Brian, I know you were able to watch the tape. I wanted to ask particularly about that first touchdown that San Francisco scored and what you saw on that play. We'll be back. We'll talk a little bit more about the defense. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Don't put off getting your oil changed, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change. A proud partner of the Cowboys is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
All right. How about this? Dallas Cowboys Game Time powered by
Lenovo.
Lenovo, yeah, the official gaming platform and community of the Dallas Cowboys. Sign up now. Compete in Madden 24 for a chance
a whole different
to win.
game.
Yeah, way different game. 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the 2023 Dallas Cowboys home game. Qualifiers begin on October 6th and run through the 13th. Learn more and register at DallasCowboysGameTime.com.
Welcome back. It is the final segment of the break live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. I will say this. I woke up this morning after only a couple hours of sleep, and I felt horrible, as you typically do after a game like that when you've been traveling and have no sleep.
Especially you, losing in all facets, just like the Cowboys.
You really had to bring that up.
I feel bad.
But one thing I have noticed is
low blow.
Talking about it helps. Like sitting here having this conversation with y'all, I actually feel a little bit better. So I'm hoping for those people out there that are listening. Yeah, for those people that are out there listening, I'm hoping they're getting the same thing, right? I hope as they're listening to the show, not that they feel better about the team, but just actually just going through it and talking it out. Just makes you feel a little
shedding
bit
a few
less.
Tears.
Yeah, right. Helps you feel a little bit better.
Maybe the Eagles, maybe the Lions. I don't know who else you're going to play that has an offense like that.
Oh, let me tell you this. December,
Yeah.
if we don't know enough about this team, we're
Buffalo,
going to find it out in December. Because listen to this,
maybe,
Murder's Road.
yeah.
You got Seattle at home.
Yeah.
You got Philly at home. Yeah. Then you go to Buffalo. Then you go to Miami.
Yeah.
Then you get, Detroit at home.
Yeah.
And sandwiched between all that, you got the Washington Commanders on the front end and on the back end, which they're not a good team, but they always play Dallas tough.
Defensively, they do.
So you look at that like November through December, January timeframe.
Yeah. That is not hopium you're talking about here.
That's why I was so worried. That's why I was so worried. It's like,
Merry
I thought the
Christmas.
beginning of the season is when they had to really put some stuff together because that's going to be tough. Even if they would have been the team I expected them to be, that was going to be tough. But you lose that game in Arizona, that's a big one.
Yeah.
You needed to win that game.
Yeah,
and now
absolutely.
you got San Diego coming up. Not San Diego, LA Chargers coming up. And this becomes a very, very important game for you. So there's a lot more football to be played. But man, it certainly is something that you've changed your outlook right now based upon what you saw last
Which you
night.
certainly can't do now. I mean, like Brian said, this is one of those games where, kind of like the Pittsburgh of yesteryear, I mean, you get brutalized. And I mean, look at the way the injuries were racking up yesterday. I mean, you were getting brutalized, but you better find a way to pull it together because you don't want to drop 2 straight going into the bye week and have to sit on that for 2 weeks. That you just don't. So
play caller change. Be ready.
Figure it out.
You calling it now?
I said it in June.
Oh God.
I said in June. I said, you always do crazy predictions. I said week 7.
Oh, that was.
Yeah, I said week 7. My crazy prediction. Nick always loves crazy predictions. Nick Eatman. Give me your crazy prediction. We used to do that all the time, and that was my crazy prediction that Brian Schottner would be calling plays in week 7.
I mentioned before we went to break, I wanted to talk specifically about that first touchdown.
I got you covered.
I think it was emblematic of what happened throughout the game as far as just ways that it seemed like San Francisco was able to confuse the Dallas defense and make big plays out of it. Brian, what did you see in that 19-yard touchdown to Kittle?
Yeah, that's the one that's and we were talking about it during the break. It really was interesting because the secondary, I thought, was in good shape across the board. They really were. Everybody was plastered on their guys. But what happens is when Kittle goes up the field, it freezes Hooker. And he's kind of like, is he going to break outside to his right or is he going to break inside? And it paused him enough that when he broke to the inside, he really couldn't adjust fast enough to get over to him. But Hooker might have thought Bell was playing, and then again, here's an inexperienced guy playing, and that's not an excuse, but here he is in a situation where he's playing as a drop linebacker, basically, and he's trying to get depth, and he's looking for a crosser to his right. But Kittle hadn't crossed yet, and so he's still kind of dropping, and then he stops, and he looks back, and there's Kittle now crossing, and now it's too late.
He's behind him.
So he's behind. So now you have... And it's a great job by Purdy to find Kittle. It was a great route. The routes, all the routes that Kittle scored on were actually pretty cool routes. He's a really kind of a loose runner. And so when his ability to nod and it kind of gets you to overplay and then he goes back inside, he did that to Donovan Wilson on the touchdown. Kind of nodded Wilson and then he got him back inside. But yeah, it was, everybody was in good shape. It's just the quarterback found the one guy where the Cowboys were really struggling to try and take care of that.
Yeah, it seemed to me like it was a little bit, I don't know. I question what the assignments were because it looked like everybody, like you said, it looked like everybody was in man coverage except for whoever would have been on Kittle.
Right.
And if it was Hooker, then my thought is like, why is Hooker 20 yards off of him? Like he's almost in the end zone. And in the red zone that Kittle is an issue. Like I would have just thought they would have had they wouldn't have given him as much free range to run if you're going to man him up on that safety. But however it came out, it certainly that seemed to be the theme of the night is they always found that one guy that they found a way to get him open and to get him open in a situation where he could not only be open, but be open and catch the ball and be running and keep running after he makes the catch.
They were able to do quite a few big plays. And like we talked about it last week, you brought up the whole how many big plays the Cowboys give up versus how many big plays the 49ers make. And
I'll tell you one. The whole night could be described if you watch the 49ers last touchdown, the toss sweep to Jordan Mason. Yeah. And that kind of symbolizes everything that went wrong in the night. And because everybody got blocked. I mean, it's the motion block. They got Micah hooked. They kicked out. Wilson got kicked out in the play. They get a guy up on Van Der Esch. They get Trent Williams up on Van Der Esch. Buford cuts off Clark. And then Noah gets pushed wide. I mean, it just everything that could have gone wrong. I mean, if you talk about a perfectly blocked play, like if you were to draw it up and say, okay, this is the way we want to run it. That play right there. If you said, hey, what happened in the San Francisco Dallas game? Show them that one play, and everybody would go, oh, Okay, because it was well designed, it was well executed, it was well blocked. It was terrible on the Dallas side. The angles that the safeties took, how wide people got kicked out, your best player got hooked, your linebacker gets cut off from the inside. Everything about that play was how your night went. You'll see it and you'll go, oh, okay, I know what he's talking about now.
Shanahan it was a master class of how to scheme your playmakers open. You talk about the first George Kittle touchdown, talk about the one on first down, the trick play, right? So they come out, it's 1st and 10, it's a single back formation with CMC in the backfield, and of course you're looking at CMC, and if you're the defense, you're also looking at Deebo Samuel right there to the left. And then they motion George Kittle over, and it looks like he's going to be chip help. So he feigns the block just well enough, to his credit, just well enough to make them bite on that. So what happens on the snap?
They do a lot of motion.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
Stop it.
And what happens on the snap?
So frustrating.
But they're getting all their pre-snap reads. Like they're putting themselves in a position. How many times yesterday did you see them get McCaffrey isolated with LVE?
Yeah.
Like, because when they go in motion, they're trying to see how you're going to adapt to that, and based on that, they're going to run the play that suits them and gives them.
Or
the
they're
going to
come back to a play a next play or three plays from now.
Yeah, it's the beauty of that offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this. You look at this play over and over again, and I mean, roses to Shanahan for this, because this was just nasty. It was nasty because you're worried about CMC, and it's first and 10. You're thinking, okay, they're up 13-0. They're going to go ahead and do what they got to do here, hand it off maybe. But then it's like, oh crap, here's Deebo on the snap. He goes in, so eyes on Deebo. George Kittle feigns the block, and then he releases out. Now, if you're Jordan Lewis, you're like, crap, because now George Kittle is blowing past you now as you had your eyes. So by the time you adjust with his speed, if you're even, I'm leaving. And that was it. So that was it. And, flip it back to Purdy. And what does Purdy do? Deep ball down the right-hand side. And that was one of those big things that was demoralizing.
It's unfortunate on that play, too, because Osa wins on the play. Osa wins on the block, but he hesitates. He hesitates, and then he's trying to kind of find the ball, and he realizes that Purdy's now got it. And that little hesitation allowed Purdy just enough time to get it down the field for the touchdown.
Yep. That's a wrap for us. We didn't even get to our player evaluations. We'll bring that back tomorrow. We got to still talk about guys like Dak and Cooks and what's happening with this defense. Where was Micah yesterday? We got a lot to hit up. We'll do that tomorrow. Till then, for Patrick Walker, Brian Broaddus, Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?